Good afternoon, or is a warm, bright and sunny day. It is Wednesday the 7th of June. I've got a nice hot cup of tea and a parcel to a box. So, I've already pulled out that and that and a little Funko Pop card game. What have I got below that? Let's have a look. It is the Cypher System Rulebook from Monte Cook Games. So, any character, any campaign, if you can imagine it, the Cypher System makes it easy. The Cypher System is the critically acclaimed game engine that powers any game in any genre, lauded for its elegant ease of use, flexibility and narrative focus. The Cypher System unleashes the creativity of game masters and players with an intuitive character creation, fast-paced gameplay, and a uniquely GM-friendly design. GMs find the game easy to prepare for and run. It frees up your attention to focus on cool, creative ideas with minimal mechanical burden. Primarily because the Cypher System is player-facing. What I mean by that is that the players make all the rules. Make all the roles, not rules, all the roles. So, when a player character attacks, the player makes the roll to attack, but when the player character is attacked, the player makes a defense roll, for example. So, players love the concept-based character creation system and mechanics focused on narrative engagement. Easy to learn, but with all the depth and nuance you want, the Cypher System is powerful, sophisticated, and flexible. The Cypher System Rulebook includes the complete Cypher System game rules, special rules and advice for 9 specific genres, including fantasy, modern, science fiction, horror, superheroes, and post-apocalyptic settings. 4 character types, so 50 descriptors, and more than 90 foci that let you build interesting, concept-driven characters for any genre. Plus rules and guidance for modifying or building your own types and foci suited to your particular campaign. Loads of equipment and hundreds of ciphers and artifacts, nearly 60 creatures and non-player characters to populate adventures in any genre. Great GM advice on adapting the Cypher System to a variety of settings and on running fun, engaging, fast-paced, easy to GM game sessions. So, the Cypher System has been with us for 10 years now, it being 2023 when I'm looking at this. Having first appeared with the big hit game Numenera, which was a post-apocalyptic kind of setting in the very far future, where the line between science and magic was very thin, but you could sort of achieve magical things through science rather than achieve scientific things through magic. So up inside, with fantastic artwork, but the key point about the characters is, let's have a look. Well, we'll get to that, but anyway, essentially is that characters are designed to be able to do things and do things, interesting things. So, we've got the credits and contents page, and introduction, explaining the sort of like what the game is about, and the possible some of the genres it can cover, and the settings, and how you can introduction to how you can tailor them to the rules to that setting. Then we've got an explanation of the rule system, so that's pretty much up front and covers the basics of the rules, combat, special rules, handling experience points, and the use of ciphers, which are usually one-shot devices. One of the great elements about the Cypher System is the experience point system. Now, you can gain experience points for achieving things within the game, making discoveries and the like. But during play, the game master is encouraged at certain points to intrude upon play and give essentially make an intrusion and give experience points to a player character, and the player. And the player gets to say, okay, well, I will take one and I will give the other to another player but in return, the player has something bad happen to them, or an obstacle that the player character has to overcome. So improving the story, giving a chance to shine, and pushing the story on a bit. So it might be sort of like if you're a scholar, you drop your glasses, and you're suddenly searching around in the dark for them or something. But essentially, and there is advice on handling that, of course. So basically, your character is how can I put it? Your character is something who is something who does something. So you've got an idea of what they are and what they kind of focus on in doing. So essentially you've got, to create your character, you've got a simple statement that describes them. The statement is, I am an adjective, noun, who does something. So, so for example, I'm a rugged warrior who controls beasts, or I'm a charming explorer who focuses mind over matter. And you put that together from the different kind of character types. So you've got warrior, and you've got an example there, basically the character put together. Adept, who sort of handles magic, and then explorer covers scholars and explorers and that sort of thing, and then speaker, diplomat, bard, something like that. And I mean, all of these have different things according to can be labelled different things according to the genre. So an explorer in a fantasy or fairy tale might be an adventurer, a delver, a mystery seeker. Modern, horror or romance, athlete, detective, scholar, spelunker. Science fiction, wanderer, planetary specialist, xenobiologist, superhero or post-apocalyptic, adventurer or crime fighter. It's, a lot of cases with this game is what you're doing is really building a character for the genre, not necessarily for and a setting, through the rules. And it's really sort of like some of the elements of the game will be exactly the same depending upon no matter what the genre is. It's at least mechanically, but flavour and detail will work differently in each of the genres. So, for example, it might be a rugged explorer who wears a sheen of ice. Now that might, an adept who wears who wears a sheen of ice. So that might mean in a fantasy setting that it could be a wizard casting ice magic, but in a science fiction setting, it could be that the character is able to lower the temperature of areas through psionics. So you've got quite a lengthy list of essentially. Let's have a look. Where are we? Descriptors. So calm, chaotic, craven, empathic, fast, dishonourable. So they can be negative and positive, but each one will give you benefits and advantages and disadvantages and so on as well. So you've got lots of lists of these. I don't know whether I am a blockhead, but there we go. Then we have the focus. So the focus might, it could be battles, robots, calculates the incalculable, or controls blasts. So you've got lists of those and their advantages, or essentially skills and abilities gained as the player character sort of ascends the 6 tiers within the game. And there's, so lots of these. Was foretold, wields 2 weapons at once, works miracles, would rather be reading. There's mine. And then we have things like focus categories and how they're used. We've got advice in here for elements that help you create, customize, and all of those elements. So you can go away and say, "Oh, well, I'm not happy with this. I want to create something more specific to your setting," but you've got the advice on how to do it. And then we get onto the abilities, and these are the abilities integral to the individual sort of like descriptors. I am, and the like. So these are just listed sort of like alphabetically, so you just put them up. So it might be you'd be able to call dead spirits, or a brute strike attack. So just leafing through those, you've got all of these. So leafing through all the abilities. So you're not going to need all of these, of course, depending upon your characters. But the abilities take actually quite a big chunk of the rulebook. They are. Let's have a look. So they run. There's almost that. I mean, that section, there's 100 pages of abilities there. So you've got lots of variety, lots of things, that you can play around with and explore, and make your character kind of different. Get onto equipment. Armor, weapons, miscellaneous services, and the like, including explosive weapons, because your players always love running around with explosives, dealing with artifacts and ciphers. Before we get onto the rules, proper rules, and this expands upon the core introduction at the start of the game. So we've got an explanation of all the key concepts here. How to determine task difficulty, and typically task difficulty will range from 3 up to 30, and you're going to roll over, and what you can do is you can spend points from your pools of might, intellect and speed to reduce the difficulty, so that the higher, more level you up, you'll have more points to spend, and you'll be able to spend more freely, more cheaply, because you can also adjust the costs. Okay, let's flipping through to here. Then we must get on to. So we've got. And then throughout we've got, you've got actually wide margins, but the margins are used for extra advice for the GM. Just there and there. They're not always packed, but there's also spaces for the artwork. There we go. And it's explaining, how things work. I mean, action, do something else, or wait, is simple enough, but needs a little bit of explanation within the rules. And it includes vehicles as well, both combat and movement. And you've got optional rules like gaining insight, getting an XP advance, so on. Skills from backgrounds, optional using miniatures. They're not standard to the game, as it were. They're optionals that the game master can add to make her game work. And then of course we get up experience points. And of course, the major method of gaining those during play are the intrusions, as I mentioned earlier. But we also get the discussion of character arcs. So basically you can have character progression and points where that they are going. Your character actually achieves something within the sort of like the character or the ongoing story. That you're pursuing, and we've got a list of possible character arcs as well. So, for example, birth, you become a parent. Opening is making someone pregnant. And then step is finding a caretaker, then a complication, preparation, delivery, and resolution, and so on. So you've got sort of like a story arc from beginning to end there. And there are several of these. So it might be, you know, finish a great work or master a skill. Oh, and I've just a delivery of a parcel. And then we get on to genres. And 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 9 genres discussed in here, in this section alone. And we start off with fantasy. And key down there, what we've got is, you know, there's a suggestion. Okay, so Monte Cook Games does a particular fantasy book, and that's, you know, that's the book you want. If you're going to expand upon just the rules on here, so here we've got creating a fantasy setting, running a fantasy setting, just brief overviews, potential foci you would have in a fantasy section, list of equipment, you know, artifacts. And then options in here, for example, mixing it up fantasy and science fiction, species descriptors, dwarf, elf, half giant, hellborn, optional, and you know, that essentially you use the noun, descriptor, verb means of creating your character, but using it through sort of like the standard kind of species you would find in a fantasy game, followed up by optional rules for spellcasting, and you know how that might work using the Cypher system before we get on to modern. And it's going to do the same sort of thing, you know, suggest types, you know, tying up your character's types. So, for example, in a modern game, you might go, you're playing a police officer, well, an explorer with the emphasis on combat, teacher, speaker, or scholar, explorer with a skills and a knowledge flavour. And it's going to do the same for the foci as well. You know, so options mixing up, you've got modern fantasy, but also childhood adventure, so you can play adventures in the style of Stranger Things, Kids on Bikes, or Tales from the Loop, you know, in that genre. So you've got options there, and a table. That table is childhood adventure threats. And then does the same thing for crime and espionage, talking about tradecraft there. So covering quite a lot, but not necessarily in great detail, just a solid overview. Science fiction. And here, you know, suggested NPCs, equipment, rules for starships, but we have the stars are fire. There's the science fiction setting or source book for the Cypher system, and then mixing it up, science fiction on, adding artificial intelligences and more. Horror. So, for example, suggested creatures and NPCs for a horror game, you know, deep ones, ghouls, giants, skeletons, that sort of thing. You know, they're all going to be taken from the bestiary included, and the Stay Alive is the suggested book. And again, that combines it with horror and science fiction, and we get on to romance, and it's going to do the similar thing for each one. Superheroes, and the combining here is science fiction and superheroes, post-apocalyptic, fairy tales, historical. That covers quite a lot, but it's only in a few pages. You know, but it discusses, you know, historical adventure, time travel gaming. I mean, that's just a few paragraphs. You know, you could write a whole role-playing game up on a time travel game, and plenty have. Creatures. So we've got a bestiary. For example, Chimera or Chronophage. You know, you go from one sort of like mythological to almost science fiction creature. You know, Killing White Light or Mechanical Soldier. Different genres, different, just you know, just covering a broad range in here. Fat Reject or War Droid. You can always see sort of like, you know, settings where they would work. And there's the same thing for NPCs. We'll start off with an assassin there. And then a discussion of ciphers, the devices that you can find throughout the sort of like the universes of the Cypher system, introduced in the Numenera. So lots of those. Then we get on to advice for the Game Master and running the Cypher system. You know, with advice, for example, how to use 3M under intrusion, using and not abusing the intrusion system, dice rolling, using character types to define the settings. So lots of advice there for the budding new Cypher system Game Master. You know, sections on, you know, enhancing or encouraging character creativity, player creativity, sorry, and more. You know, just general advice throughout. So overall, it's really quite a good package. There's a lot you can do with this. And you actually got an example of play at the end. It's a little bit odd being placed at the end there, but that's going to help, you know, give an idea of what the game is like. And it's actually sort of like, it's quite lengthy. It's 4 pages long. And then, you know, back matrix, essentially we've just got a index and so on, and design worksheets for the Game Master. So yeah, that's the Cypher System Rulebook, published by Monte Cook Games. So looking forward to giving that a review. There'll be a link down below. And I really like the look of that. I do like the Cypher System, and I do like Numenera. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.